Hey guys, it's Miss Daly. Thanks so much for having math online with us. I'm gonna have to, you're gonna have to forgive me because Miss Daly does not work her phone videos very well. So, thanks again for following along. Don't forget at the end of every video, you have an assignment to do as part of your homework. You need to make sure that that assignment is turned in the next day. So tonight's assignment will be due Tuesday, and then Tuesday's assignment will be due Wednesday, and so on. So I gave you all this packet today in class to follow along with the videos. So I hope you have that out. If you don't, I'll give you some time to get it while I go over some stuff that I want you to be aware of. For example, as you can see in our CRA model, we have what's called the base 10 blocks, right? Under concrete, we have the base 10 blocks. So I just want to reintroduce to you what these base 10 blocks are. We have here our hundredths. So in elementary school, you saw this as ones. But now when we're dealing with decimals, this is going to be hundredths. Okay? So right now we have 4 hundredths. Okay, so if I have a rod, right, these are called rods. If I have a rod here, these rods were known in elementary school as tens. Okay, so now when we have decimals, these are now tenths. Okay, so 4 hundredths, 4 tenths. Okay, so think about the way that you write that decimal. Think about the way that you see that decimal, right? This one says 0.04. This one says 0.4. Okay, and lastly, we have 100 hundredths that are known as one whole. So in elementary school, like I said, you were exposed to these. These are 100 in elementary school, but right now they're going to be 1. So this is one whole. This is 1/10. Okay, so it takes 10 of these to still make a whole. And this is my hundredths. So these are 100ths. Okay, it takes 100 of these to make a whole. Kind of like money, right? Like if you had 1 penny, it would take 100 pennies to make $1. If you had a dime, it would take 10 dimes to make $1. Okay, so let's start with modeling first. Okay, you guys have, I gave you a small bag of these to take home, right? So bring these back tomorrow, don't forget. We're gonna model the first one, 2 groups of 4 tenths. So which rod, or which pieces would you need to use in order to model tenths? Would you use the hundredths, or would you use the tenths? Yeah, so you would use the tenths, right? How many of these would you need in order to have a group of 4 tenths? You would need 4 of them, right? So if you wanted 2 groups of 4 tenths, what would that look like? Go ahead and put it on your paper. I hope yours looks like mine, right? We have 2 groups of 4 tenths. How many tenths do we have all together? Yeah, we have 8 tenths. Very good. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put this on our paper. I'm going to try to write and do this at the same time. Miss Daly might need to get a camera, huh? Okay, so we're going to model one group of 4 tenths using a colored highlighter or marker. Okay, and all you're going to do is just like you saw on your picture, or on your rods, excuse me. You're going to color in one group of 4 tenths. Okay. You're going to switch colors and color in another group of 4 tenths. So remember, all together we should have 8 tenths. Okay. So essentially what we did here was we took our 2 groups of 4 tenths and we added it together like this. 4/10 plus 4/10. We know that that equals 8/10. What's another way we could rewrite this? If I use multiplication, I would have 2 groups, or 2 times 4/10, which equals 8/10. Okay? If we were to estimate, which we should do before every problem, but if we were to estimate, 4/10 is almost 1/2. Yes, it's almost 5/10. And if I have 2 groups of 5/10, or 50 cents, essentially twice, I would have $1. Is 8/10 close to $1 or close to 1 whole? Yeah. Okay, let's look at the other one. For this one down here, we have Tony, and he bought 3 video games. I'm gonna mark my text, as should you, right? So we circle our numbers. We underline what those numbers mean. Okay. Tony bought 3 video games from an online store. If one game weighs 3,500 pounds, what is the shipping weight for all 3 games? Okay, oops, I'm sorry. So we're looking at a problem here where we have 3 items that were purchased, and each item weighs 3,500 of a pound. I want you to reach into your bags that I gave you and find 3,500. Okay? Think about it. Would I try to take out 35 of these, or is there another way that I could rewrite or trade in order to get 3,500? Yeah. If I do 3/10, how many hundredths is 3/10? 30 hundredths, right? So if I have 30 hundredths and then another 5 hundredths, then right here I have 35 hundredths. How many groups of 35 hundredths is the problem asking for? Go back to the problem if you need help with that question. It's asking for 3 groups, because how many video games did he buy? He bought 3. Okay, so go ahead and put these aside. And we're going to color in what we just talked about. So we have 1 group of 3,500s. Okay. We're going to continue on right after the first 3,500s ended and make another group of 3,500s. Okay. And then lastly, here's my 3/10. Sorry, Miss Steele is trying to make this as neat as possible. And then 5 more hundredths. Notice I had to go to another hundredths grid, right? I had to go to another block here. So what this is telling me that my answer is over 1 whole, right? It's 1 whole and it's another 5/10. So 3 groups of 3,500s, or essentially 3,500s plus 3,500s plus 3,500s equals 1 and 500ths. 1 and 500ths. Okay? If we were to estimate 3,500ths, remember we round up when we see a 5, right? Is closer to 4/10. Well, 3 groups of 4/10, well, that's just like what we had here, right? Almost. If we had another 4/10 to this, we would have over a whole, right? 1 whole and another 2/10. So is our answer around 1 whole and 2/10? Yeah, it's pretty close. The reason we estimate, guys, is so we can rationalize our number, right? We want to make sure that our answer, if our answer were to be, let's say 10, that our answer makes sense, okay? So if our answer was 10, but we really got 1 500ths, well, then something went wrong, right? So we want to make sure we estimate first before solving any kind of problems. Okay, so go ahead, let's change this to multiplication. How many groups do we have? We have 3. And then 3 groups of 5/10 is just like saying, 3/500ths. It's just like saying 3 groups or 3 times 3/500ths. And from our model, we know that 3 groups of 3/500ths is 1 500ths. Okay, guys, I want you to make sure that you color, right, on your homework. Let me focus that. Color on your homework, okay? You have your 2 colors at home. If you need to use the base 10 blocks to model first, go ahead and do that, okay? But when you come to class tomorrow, I want to see the homework and I want the base 10 blocks to be returned also. You will use them for tomorrow night's lesson as well, okay? Have a good night, guys. Bye-bye.